Hi, everyone. Welcome to the sixth ever Amos Product Call. My name is Dominic Timel. I'm a founder and contributor at the Solvio Foundation. And we've gathered here today to discuss the product of Amos. So without further ado, let's get to it. I think the first thing that maybe I'll just get it off the bat straight away. So I was working on the designs and I actually had a very interesting idea. I don't know if that idea is pessimistic or it's optimistic, but in any case, it's an idea. So, our overarching goal is to obviously to come up with a decentralized education system that would be fully equivalent to formal education. And then one of our short-term goals is to build an app that would allow you to search for learning resources in a better way than all existing search engines can do. And so when we started the project a few weeks ago, we kind of had a discussion of which is the best route, and we decided to build an app. But more and more, I think I'll be spending the weekend to think if the other routes would make more sense. And the reason is, strategy at this stage is the most important thing. If we can find a better way to categorize learning resources based on metadata, then in this way, then obviously that would save us months of or even years of our effort. So in other words, just to summarize the whole thing, it's better to pivot before you build a product, correct? So the other two ways are, the first one sort of algorithmic, centralized. And the reason I thought about that is, if you look at our metadata set, so it's access, which is composed of the address, the format, and the price, as well as the topics, and finally the learning dependencies. I think even among this metadata set of three fields, two of them we can do algorithmically with a high degree of accuracy. So that in particular is the link, obviously, the format, the price. We can just ping, whether it's an HTML text or whether it's a Netflix video or YouTube video, that can all be done using one line of code. And the topics, I would claim that wouldn't be that hard to algorithmize with a high degree of accuracy as well. And then there are even other metadata fields that I think could be done algorithmically. So if in the future we're planning to add something like difficulty, like of the text itself, the inherent difficulty, how long it takes to read, how mentally straining or difficult it is, then I think that that can be done as well. So just a simple Google search turns out a bunch of algorithms that allow you to analyze text precisely for its readability. So I entered some text, I entered some paragraphs from a book I'm currently reading, and it shows me the grade level that like a student of grade 12.2 would either, I don't know if it's read or write level for that sort of level of English. And then there's other indices as well that are standardized. And it obviously does it by having some database of complex words, or maybe by looking at the average syllables per word or the average words per sentence. And even something like quality of the work, like its rating and stuff, at least at the moment, something like Amazon or Goodreads or whatnot has a larger database for reviews and ratings than we will in the first few weeks or months. So and then finally something like difficulty. Sorry, I already mentioned difficulty. Something like length. Again, you can easily find the page number length from Amazon. You can find the length of a YouTube video. So really the only thing that remains is the learning dependencies. And if we can find a way to crack that, then maybe the problem is solved. We don't need millions of man hours to categorize these resources. Maybe we can just do it all ourselves. So obviously, you know, if you have a book, for example, and we can get the text version of the book, the digital version, then if the book has an index, that would be the best. There we see all the topics that it's on. You know, how do you do learning dependencies? Well, you know, maybe the stuff that it mentions, the topics are sort of a smaller subset of the learning dependencies. You know, there's obviously going to be some overlap. So those are questions to potentially think about. And then the second possible way to categorize the web's learning resources is sort of do it on the end of the supplier, not on the end of the consumer. So whoever created that resource. So that would be more of a B2B route than a B2C route. So partner up with whether it's publishers or YouTube channels or Khan Academy or TED, and whoever made the resource. What we would provide this as an open nonprofit platform for people to essentially get more attention for their works, or for their if it's a business, for their business. So this is something I'll spend the weekend thinking about. Hopefully we can get a decision soon, because it's obviously very, very important, you know, how we approach this problem. Do you guys have any thoughts? I mean, it's kind of a stark proposal, but
the learning dependencies.
Yeah, that's the hard one, isn't it?
So I thought we were doing it the UAG way, where the UAG will point towards a learning.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the B2C way, right? That's the community way. That's where we try to get everyone to do this. But maybe if we can, you know, or we can also do obviously a hybrid approach where sort of something like the metadata fields that I mentioned that are very easy to do on the server, we do, and then we you know, build the community for things that are harder for the computer to do, like learning dependencies. Or maybe we run an algorithm even on learning dependencies, and then we allow people to correct it. So there's hybrid approaches possible as well. But essentially what I'm thinking is, if by any chance we're able to find a solution that would already hydrate the database in a sort of massive way as soon as we release the product in 1 or 2 months, then that would be really, really incredible. Like if the people could already search, and then adding the metadata is something that either we don't need at all, or it's, you know, kind of not a secondary thing, but it's only part of the equation, then imagine how much that would increase your chances of succeeding. Anyone here have experience with machine learning and have something to say whether this problem is solvable by ML? Yeah, the lucky thing is we have a great team. Like the people that have joined this project are on the whole very, very smart, which is incredible, because it means that when we pivot, we don't lose the talent. So most people here are full stack, and not just that, but most people also have an expertise either in blockchain or in AI. A lot of the people in the Slack channel right now. So if we pivot, then we still keep our sort of talent and focus, because people are.
I was actually having a discussion today with somebody, and I was trying to explain him what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Go on, Ani.
Why not bring in machine learning to build up the reputation of the learning dependencies and so on? But from what I had in mind was a human um, rated system, or a reputed topic or category wise will be a lot better than a machine learned part. I mean, we can obviously have a hybrid model in which the initial few data can be seeded using some sort of already, which some of the trees which already exist. um, we can do that, but I think going the decentralization, the decentralized way, and having users to add would still be better.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that the server stuff makes total sense, though, at least for part of the metadata fields, right? Like, there's no point asking people to fill in things like the format, the price, the length, the difficulty, and possibly even the topics, when that can easily be done by by an algorithm, right? By the computer. And there's various ways we could think about, like, we could scrape Wikipedia, which, by the way, it's legal to scrape. It's a very open platform. And we could find all the hyperlinks, all the references to, actual learning resources like books or whatnot. And depending on which place each book gets referenced, right? That would be the topics of the book. Another example, we could maybe the book has a Wikipedia page. Well, then that would be a summary of the book, or maybe it has a Blinkist page. And even on Amazon, you have categories for topics, essentially. Or we could look at the reviews and scrape them. So there's a lot of possibilities for something like topics, but for a lot of the fields, I think it just totally makes sense to do some kind of automatic approach. Yeah. Anyway, so that was just an idea I had, and it's not just an idea. I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time thinking about this, and obviously that the reason I'm saying that is to extend the invitation for you guys to brainstorm, because you're founders of this project in the equal manner as I am, and we all want to find the best solution to categorize the web. Nevertheless, also, yeah, go on.
Yeah, also, like there's two things. One is obviously the right way to do it, and the other is for the first version to do it. So, right, like eventually maybe we can also add a machine learning part, which can categorize better maybe than humans would, if at all there are less interaction by users. Initially, what do you think we should go with? I think this is good enough to go with initially.
Yeah, give me a few more days and let's get back to each other early next week.
I think an approach with machine learning concerning text analysis is definitely possible to extract the topics out of it.
Interesting. Yeah. Another thing, another idea that I had, and this was all in the last 40 minutes, was to sort of find a set of technical terms, so terms that are not obviously understandable, that would essentially form learning dependencies, right? So how would we do that? I don't know, maybe use Wikipedia, or maybe look up some actual books that are like dictionary of law terms or dictionary of engineering terms, and then create a whole big list of these technical terms. And then we could, if we get the digital versions of the books, we could scrape them, and wherever the word matches a technical term, maybe that would be either a topic or learning dependency. So where I'm coming from is I'm just reading this book, and it's a great one. It's called Hackers, Heroes of the Computer Revolution. And essentially, the learning dependencies in this book are precisely that. They're technical terms or concepts that not every reader like me, who I don't have experience with electrical engineering, would know. So things like electromagnetic relays, vacuum tubes, transistors, etc. So if we find a set of these phrases, and not just for engineering, then we compare the words of the book with those phrases, and maybe the technical stuff will either be topics or learning dependencies.
So does the scraping happen in real time, or do we scrape and already build up the database like that?
I mean, there's various options, right? When it comes to obtaining sort of digital versions of books, there's obviously everyone knows there's LibGen. Have you guys heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's LibGen. The only question is whether it's legal, or whether we wouldn't be violating any laws. But yeah, LibGen essentially allows you to find a free PDF or EPUB version of any book in the world. Nevertheless, even though I had this idea, I still didn't falter, and I managed to finish the wires. So this is I've been working on this for quite a bit, and I really wanted to get this to a level where it's done. So what's cool about it is that we also sort of preliminarily decided to go with a white background, as well as like blue as the sort of primary or secondary color. So actually, something like this might even, it actually is a mock-up. Now that I think about it, the reason why I proposed or suggested white was because I saw a lot of other websites like YouTube, Quora, Stack Overflow, Wikipedia use white, and it makes a lot of sense. But now that I'm looking at it, actually, I realize the main difference between us and them, and that is that we have cards, in particular chat boxes, right? So if you think about all of these applications, YouTube, Quora, Stack Overflow, or Wikipedia, they're either media-based like YouTube, or they're text-based. But when you think of something like Facebook or Twitter, they both have a background, and it's a great background. And the reason they have a background is they both use cards. And when you do something like that, you might want to differentiate the color of the two objects. So that's something to decide. Nevertheless, the layout of the application is I put a lot of work into it. Not just the layout, but like the whole user flow. And I think it's at a level where it's very, very good. So let me walk you through it. I also used what Michel suggested when I was texting him a few days ago. So let's get to it. Hi, I'm Amos. I was created to be the best learning mentor in the world. For now, I'm trying to sort the web's learning resources. Then in the future, I'll be able to show you learning paths on a topic tailored to your requirements. So I need your help. Create an account and submit reviews for your favorite learning resources. Vamos, amigo. And you can either sign up, or you can even click review. And if you do that, then you can also add reviews for online learning resources, either anonymously or by signing up. I recommend signing up first, because then you can get reputation for your reviews. So this is essentially like, in UX, sign-in walls are really not recommended. And I think it's great that we also provide an anonymous option. And once you submit your review, then there's also a thank you screen that is not logged in. And you would still have the option, we would store the review obviously in Redux, and you would still have the option to sign up so that your review can get you reputation, or you can submit it anonymously. By the way, if you guys have any comments, then let me know, or I'll just keep talking. So that's sort of the home page. And what happens when you click one of these? Well, you can also click sign up here. That brings you over here. Once you sign up, you'll be able to get a reputation for your reviews, and it's free. And you can also sign up with email, or you can log in. And what happens when you sign up? Then you get something like this. Thanks for trusting me. Let's get to work. Go ahead and submit a review. And finally, once you are logged in, then you'll also see notifications. I've also changed that. If you guys remember, it used to be a little bit different. And now it's both nicer, and it has more information, and it is easier to code because it's just a chat box. So we reuse the component. Now what happens if you click search? If you are logged in, then you get, hi again. The guys from Savio said they'll teach me search when we get 10,000 data points, and if we can't get there, they'll get rid of me. They call this iteration. So I'm in desperate need of your help. Go ahead and submit reviews for your favorite learning resources. Oh, and introduce me to your friends. My address is www.amos.ms. Let's keep this product alive. Submit a review. And finally, the most important part of the whole MVP is the review section. Help me link the world's knowledge. You can submit reviews for online learning resources. If other people agree with your review, you will gain reputation. So with access, what are the ways to access this resource? You can enter the URL link to the resource. What's the primary format of the resource? I've also made it much simpler based on Michelle's comments. He was saying that what I had before was not legible. And also free, then there will be no text box. Paid, and then you will enter how many dollars or maybe other currency. And subscription only, then you can search for all of the subscriptions that we'll have. Maybe we'll have like 5 or 6 or whatnot to begin with, and then you'll also be able to enter other. So yeah, that's small change from before. I think it's good if we also include some subscriptions and also allow people to specify the price, because otherwise there's almost no point in allowing them to pick that if they wouldn't be able to specify that. So now you see, yeah, and the rest is very similar. I've also, one thing I've done is, again, per Michelle's comments, no longer are there ugly previous and next buttons here, but I made it much nicer. Previous, next, and you also can finish anywhere in between. And, oh, and also I got rid of position. And that's important. And the reason I got rid of position, because I think that, at least for the MVP, we should do that on our end. The reason being, it's, again, too confusing for the user. Like, what's a child resource? What's a parent resource? And also, I thought quite hard about whether we should have these as checkboxes or just selections. And I chose selections again because it's easier. And the reason is, like, the way the MVP is constructed, we really want to allow sort of submitting metadata for actual resources, as opposed to like these umbrella nodes that, for example, for a publisher or YouTube account. So rather than these like super nodes, like these parent nodes in the resource tree, we really want to boil down to the very low level nodes. And for those, we assume that there is one primary format. Oh, and this should not say, we should say, what is the price of the resource? Nice. And finally, we have the learning dependencies, and that pretty much is unchanged from before because it's quite nice, and we can leave it at that. And as soon as you submit, I'll let you know. I'll send you a notification if you get a reputation for that review, and you can submit a new one. So now you guys see why I had this idea of sort of automatizing it, because something like price, it just doesn't make sense that everybody has to enter it. It's manual work that is unnecessary. So let's think about how we can automatize some of those fields and find the best hybrid approach. Now, what are your comments as to the wires? Do you like them? I think it's quite good, and I almost would be happy to say that this is like pretty much the mock-ups. I think I might get in touch with drafts.com and tell them to like have a look at it and maybe review it. But I actually don't think we need that, because then I would have to explain it what we're actually building to them for like 2 hours, and that would be. So I think on the design side, we can pretty much finalize it on our end. So just a very few small things remain. Maybe the background, whether we want it to be different from the background of the cards of the chat boxes, since we have 2 different things, and that's pretty much it on the design side, except for the changes that will come about from having the hybrid approach. Now, from my side, that's it. So let me know what you think, and then that'll be it.
So I think it looks great. Maybe we can play around a little bit with some aspects of the design. So like you mentioned, the background, and maybe another, like some small details, but we can play around with it and maybe discuss it on the design chat. Maybe people can post their ideas, screenshots, and we can decide based on those suggestions. So you didn't add the search screen to the.
Yeah, I mean, the idea for the MVP is there's no search yet, precisely because there's nothing to search on yet, right? So that's the first phase, is where we just hydrate the database, and then in the future we'll allow search. Oh yeah, and one last thing that I forgot to say, I also added a help link over here, so you can either click on solvio.org or you can click help. And maybe that will show you, that will head over to a read the docs page where you can read about how the whole system works if you're interested. Maybe if you go there, maybe there's going to be a video which is going to be us sort of explaining the project or even showing you around, as well as you can read about how the whole backend works, because none of that is actually explained here. So for example, in notifications, it says that you just gained 1 reputation point in some specific topic. But actually, obviously, since reputation bubbles up, then you also get it in a bunch of the higher level topics as well, and a lot of other things. How does when do you actually get notifications? Here it just says people agree with your review, right? But we have a very specific algorithm of doing that. Like if 90 other reputation points agree, then another 900, then another 9,000, then you will be getting 1 for each. So you can, if the user is interested, for example, I love when sort of the model is open, for example, in video games or whatnot, because then you can actually, understand the system. And for somebody like me, that's really rewarding. So if somebody wants to do that, they can always read the actual documentation on Read the Docs. Sorry, David, you were going to say something else?
Yeah, so you mentioned about the algorithmic approach to building the data set. So I mean, I think it might be a good idea to include at least a demo for the search screen. Based on that, on the MVP. I mean, I think people are going to be really interested in that part, aside of the other aspects of the application. So yeah, I think that will be great to show people and maybe possible investors.
Got it.
so yeah, I think that might be a good idea. Also, a hybrid approach with algorithmic and the human classified.
Submissions.
Yeah, but maybe we can do something really simple for the human validation layer. So, for example, we can run this algorithm, and then maybe just show very simple questions to people, like yes or no question, like do you think this dependency is relevant for this topic, or something like that. So people just have to click a button, and that's it. And we can show these random questions every now and then with maybe the Chrome extension, or so yeah, something that it's not going to consume a lot of time to people, the people don't find bothersome. I think I saw something similar with with a company that's dedicated on translating resources. So the way they do it is that they run text analysis on different resources, and then they just make really small partitions of that text and show them to their user base. So they display really simple questions like, you think this translation is accurate, yes or no, or maybe just a ranking. So yeah, so users don't spend more than a minute on each
Definitely
session.
Totally agree. I mean, that's a definite preference, is only use the user submissions where it's necessary, find the best trade-off between automatic and so I mean, we've already begun this, right? Like as soon as we started discussing a few days ago or last week how to on the back end do some sort of custom logic to help the users, then this is just extending that approach.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, maybe with this approach we can build at least something simple on the search screen. Yeah,
I tend to agree. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, that's.
And we can also, like, to source the resources, we can also use awesome lists and stuff like that to actually find the resources. And then anybody else have any contributions for now? You can also, of course, sometimes stuff comes up when you're least expecting it. For example, for me, when I'm cycling, then feel free to always post in one of the channels what your thoughts are. We really want to solve this problem together.
Sounds good.
Cool. So thanks a lot, everyone, for attending the call, and to our watchers for watching the video. If you'd like to join our community, then head over to solvio.org and get in touch. Thanks a lot. See you around.